How's it going, guys? It's Eclipse here, and today we're taking a look at the top 5 premium light tanks that you can pick up on World of Tanks console. What do I think is good about them? What can you kind of expect? And are they worth picking up according to their price tag if you see them on sale or if they come in a bundle, etc. So on screen I've got a few of my kind of light tanks that I tend to play if I'm going to play any of them. I've experimented with quite a few different light tanks over the course of my games that I've played, the 20,000 or so that I have played in total. We've got loads and loads of different ones that I can kind of talk about, but these are definitely the top 5 that I've found for both in-game and from their statistics as well in the garage and what you can kind of expect for them. Now, this is from a point of view of someone that's, knows what light tanks are about. Obviously, if you jump into a light tank, you don't know anything about them, you're probably not going to be able to do particularly well. But if you are interested in becoming a light tank driver, then this is the video for you in terms of finding out which premium light tank you might want to pick up if you're trying to train a crew or you just enjoy light tanks overall as a whole. Number 1. They aren't in a particular order, but we're going to pick the T50-2. This is one of my favourites in the game, and it's absolutely perfect at tier 6. It doesn't get the best penetration, I'm not going to lie, when you're coming up against people in the tier 8 games with its standard rounds only doing 112 millimeters of penetration, and that just basically means that you won't be able to damage a lot of the tier 8s that you might possibly come up against frontally. But if you get round them, which you can do according to the 72 kilometers an hour max speed of this tank, and it certainly gets up to that. Its acceleration is ridiculous, and yeah, this tank is 100% worth picking up. I believe it's probably somewhere in the range of 3,000 gold to be able to pick this tank up. A lot of the time it will come on sale during the week sales and bundles. So yeah, it's 100% a really, really good tank. It does do very, very small amounts of damage each chunk, but it does reload in about 1 second to 1.5 seconds. And when you're doing 85 damage per shot, it really stacks up. It's a great tank for getting around heavies and using that mobility to be able to just really outflank your opponents. It's fantastic. People find it really hard to hit you. You're so small. You can use your concealment and your vision range, which is actually really good for a tier 6. As you can see in game, I set it up with the stabilizers just because the accuracy on the move you want as good as possible in this tank. We put in the improved ventilation just to boost up our crew skills, of which I always put camo perks, and we'll go over that in just a second. And then we have view range. We don't bother with the loading time just because I feel like the accuracy to be able to actually consistently hit on the move is really, really important. And the plus 20% accuracy that you get is a massive benefit for that. View range is obviously essential in a light tank. You could always swap out the stabilizer for a concealment, advanced concealment, but that's if you want to play it more passively, and that's not really what makes this tank really fun to play. Yeah, it's definitely something I enjoy playing, and it's one of my go-tos if I just want a bit of fun, and that's something you don't tend to get with premium tanks in this game anyway. So what kind of crew do I put in the T50-2? Now, I've got a few different crews that I'll tend to pick for my light tanks. Let me just find that. I believe it is this crew right here. So what do we have? We have Sixth Sense. We've got Born Leader. We've got Rapid Loading. We've got the View Range. And then we have Muffled Shot, Camo Expertise, Track Mechanic. But you can swap that out for something like the Green Thumb, which adds a little bit, but since I play the T50-2 a lot more aggressively, I won't tend to put Green Thumb on my crew, and I'd rather have something like Repairs, where if you use your repair kit and you're caught out in the open with your tracks down, you can get that back up 25% faster. And then we've got the Quick Learner skill. I would recommend Run and Gun, but we don't actually have it on this. I think if I was to re-roll my perks, I would 100% swap out the turret rotation onto run and gun, which is this one right here. Just increase accuracy whilst on the move by a flat out 10% increase, which is really nice for the T50-2. So that kind of covers the majority of the light tanks that I play. I tend to play quite aggressively. I like to push forward and get round and outflank a lot of the heavies that I come up against. But we'll move on to number 2. So number 2 is the Aufklärungs Panther. This is something that is kind of it was such a fun tank to play. Goes up to 60 kilometers an hour. It has the hull of a Panther. A bit like the Panzer V4, but this tank is obviously at tier 7. This tank is really cheap to buy. I think it's probably only 4,000 gold or something like that for a tier 7 premium tank. It's fantastic, absolutely fantastic. The reload on it is ridiculous. If you manage to put on the equipment like so, you can have advanced optics. I put loading time and improved ventilation. Accuracy with this one is not a problem, and yeah, you do need a few premium rounds for those tier 8 games, and tier 9 games, but with 157mm you should be able to go through every tier 7 and the ones below, so you don't need full premium in something like this. Yeah, it's a fantastic tank. Your turret is the weakest point, but you do actually get slight armour, so you can side scrape with this thing. So if you want to come around a corner, you want to slightly angle the side of it, don't give them the front plate that you have, but kind of just slightly angle, and they should bounce off of you, so long as they don't have a ridiculous armour. Since you do have 40mm of side armour, which is also 50mm at the top. So yeah, it's a really good light tank, and it's so fun to play. Ramming other light tanks is fantastic. You know, if you really want to full meta this thing, you can go to your commander and you could put on something like the not pain tolerance, the controlled impact, where you do 20% increased damage to your opponent and 20% less to yourself. So you're basically getting 40% better off when you ram people. Yeah, it's fantastic for coming up against any other light tank. They are pretty much going to be, even the tier 9s are going to be not as heavy as you, since you are that Panther hull. And yeah, it's so fun to play. Would 100% recommend. Now we're moving into some of the more, I would say, traditionally meta tanks on the game, and that's like the Lichen T71. This is the tier 7 American light tank. It's got an autoloader, which makes it, well, more competitive. It has a higher skill cap. You can definitely really have fantastic games in this thing. Yeah, it's brilliant. You don't get the opportunity to have the increased loading time because it is an autoloader. That's how they kind of work. But I would 100% put view range on this thing. I would then put improved vents, and then also gun stabilizer. Yeah, this thing can push out huge amounts of damage. I believe it gets 6 shots in its clip on its gun. You can have fantastic games. You do 150 damage per shot, so I think the maximum amount of damage you can do is 900 with this thing, which is more than enough to take out the hit points of any other tier 7 light tank in the game. If you hit all of your tanks, all your hits on the enemy tank. Yeah, it's once again a fantastic tank, and the good thing about the premium light tanks is they earn quite a lot of silver if you don't fire exclusive premium, and just because you get more spotting, you get more XP, and you can also often take out a lot more enemy tanks in the game. It's really good, and it's definitely something I like playing. Haven't played huge amounts of games in it, just because I prefer to be the underdog in my light tank, so I often play tanks that aren't necessarily that particularly good, but this one is definitely for those of you who are looking to go into tanks which are really good, and will definitely have good games in them. What other tanks have we got? At number 4, we have the Vanguard. This is the EOC Even 90. So there's 2 variants. This is the skinned version of the tank. And this thing really is what you call a light tank. Super small, fast as hell. you will be able to go 70 kilometers an hour. This thing has a ridiculous gun. You can actually deal 3 shots of 220 damage, dealing 660 damage in total in your clip. It does have poor DPM, so you're not going to be able to do lots and lots of damage per minute, but because you're so small and the hits you receive and the view range that you can have in this tank means that you really don't need to actually have that DPM, just because you can get rid of your shots really quick. You can put out your damage, you can spot enemy tanks, and you don't get detected a lot of the time. So when you're firing, you especially if you have muffled shot on, you really don't get spotted. And this is the kind of play style where you can get up close and personal nearer the end of the game. You don't want to YOLO in and stuff like that at the beginning of the game, because that's not how you play light tanks. Although I see tons and tons of players doing that for some reason, really not how you play the game at all. And in a light tank, you want to be preserving yourself for the late game, which is where light tanks become absolutely fantastic, and you can outspot your opponents. You've got more room on the map. You can get involved in close quarters fights with heavy tanks that are too slow to be able to track and to get their gun to actually face you. And with this tank, you can get up close and personal. A lot of the time, heavy tanks won't be able to actually shoot at you, because they cannot get the depression to be able to shoot down. And that's what this tank, you can get right up next to them and they have no chance of being able to shoot you, because their gun will literally physically not be able to hit you. No matter how much they try and move about. The only thing that they can do is kind of wedge themselves up against something, and then they push their tank down, and therefore you can get them. But yeah, that's what makes the Vanguard really fun for me in game. And then finally, it's a tank I don't actually own, but I know how broken it is. And we can find it in the tech tree, in the premium one. And that's the Russian light tank, the LT432. Now this thing is, well, it's absolutely a clubber, to be honest with you. It's so small, it's so agile. It's like the T100 LT at tier 8. The dispersion on the move is fantastic. You can really hit things on the move. Yeah, it's amazing. At tier 8, it's definitely one of the best tier 8 light tanks that you can actually get. As I'm trying to actually find this thing, I have no idea where it is because of the new tech tree, but I will try and find it for you guys. But yeah, this thing's so small, it really becomes something that I just don't get. That it's just not balanced at all. It's definitely a light tank that I'm kind of looking to get. I haven't got it as yet. When it comes out on a sale that I actually think I will actually get, then I will definitely pick it up. Look how low profile this thing is. It's rapid. It can go 65 kilometers an hour. It's got a really good gun. 176 millimeters of penetration on its standard rounds, which is once again fantastic for your tier 8 matchups. You don't need premium, which is always a benefit, and that's going to save you money every single game that you play. You're going to be able to deal 180 damage consistently. Obviously, if you do need your premium rounds, you do get 218 millimeters of penetration. You get a decent amount of hit points, 1100, 380 meters vision range base, and the concealment on this thing is crazy too. 316 meters still concealment, which if you put on advanced concealment on this thing, it's going to become absolutely fantastic. What else of it? Its reload is about 5 seconds, or 6 seconds base. It's got 0.38 accuracy. Its dispersion on the move is really good, which is the statistic that determines how much the tank will bloom and how inaccurate it will be on the move. That's really good on this tank, and because of the low profile of this tank, it's really hard to actually hit it in game. It's got armor as well, so if we look on the front, it does manage to get 70 millimeters on the front of the hull, which when it's angled like it is right now actually means it has something like 150 millimeters of effective armor in game, 170 depending on it, and that means that you can actually bounce a lot of enemy light tanks. whilst you can pen them reliably because they just don't have the armour that you do. Fantastic tank. Turret armour is also decent, of 160 millimeters. You've got, it's ranging from there, and it's well angled, which means that, they're not going to be able to reliably pen, and it just makes your turret very small. This tank is just, once again, really small, and this is probably, I would say, the best out of the bunch. I think that this tank would definitely be the best of the bunch. If you correctly put equipment and the crew skills in it, I would 100% put this as the tank that you'd want in game. If it ever comes out on 50% discount, I am more than likely to actually pick this tank up. I won't pay full price because I don't really like doing that, and I'm not that much of a rush to be able to pick it up. But yeah, this thing is probably the best one that out of the ones I've mentioned. There are a few others that we can kind of talk about in terms of light tanks that I'd like to put in the honourable mentions, and that's things like the Tiger Shark. You could have picked that up for free. This tank is fantastic. It gets a 3-clip autoloader with 240 damage per shot. It's got really good penetration. It's fast, not super fast. It's quite boxy though, and big, so it gets hit quite easily. It's got a lot of tracks, which means it gets tracked, and I think, yeah, it can definitely work. I've got a few other light tanks, but they're not particularly fantastic, I'm not going to lie. Yeah, we've got, things like the Chaffee, that's not very good. The 1357, it's an average tank. It's nothing that you should really be picking up. So I thought that this kind of list of the top 5 would be fantastic for you guys to kind of get an opinion on some of the premium light tanks in World of Tanks console, and help push out your damage in light tanks, and also train your crews on both PlayStation and Xbox. And yeah, since this new crew system, as long as you've set up your tank right, you've got a lot of the camo perks, you want them. You want some of the accuracy on the move if you're going to have the accuracy perks. You also want 6th Sense. That is almost a guarantee. You need it on a light tank. I genuinely don't get why people don't pick 6th Sense as their first perk on a light tank, because it gives you so much information and allows you to move around. I hope you guys found these guides kind of interesting to look at and kind of get my opinion on light tanks and what you actually might want to pick up yourself if they come out. A lot of them are easier to play. Some of them are more... they're kind of difficult to play because they're not particularly overpowered. The ones I've listed are tanks that are definitely strong, and some of them have... Some of them, like this tank on screen right now, the WZ132, it can be really good in-game if you know how to play light tanks, if you are more passive, if you're not aggressive, if you're not, if you've got experience, then this tank's going to be perfectly fine, but it's not one of those that you can use in-game and just literally casually just stroll up on someone and deal 840 clip potential on someone and then just go 70 kilometers an hour away. This tank really doesn't do that. And yeah, I thought, doing these kind of top 5s might give you an idea. And I've got a few other ones I want to do. I want to do top 5 heavies. I want to do also my top 5 tanks as a whole on the game, top 5 tier 10s. I kind of want you guys to kind of see which tanks you should be looking at getting, and I don't want you running up lines like the Badger if you're a brand new player, because it really isn't new player friendly. You're not going to enjoy it. The grind to it is not great, and if you want to spend a little bit of money to get a light tank premium, they don't cost a bomb. You're probably looking at a tenner, £10, that is probably $14 to be able to pick up one tier 8 premium light tank. If you get it on sale, I think that definitely a light tank's a good way to kind of learn the game as well, because I feel like I learned the best when you're in a tank that's a bit of an underdog and you have to kind of actually think about what you're doing, rather than in a tank where you can bounce shots but you don't understand that the shot that you bounced was a bit lucky. So yeah, I think that getting yourself a premium light tank is something everyone should kind of do, and it definitely helped me improve a lot. That can't be said for everyone, but I really think that it could help. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, I have some other guides. There'll be one on screen right now that you can click on to have a look at how to play light tanks. I've also got my last video, which was a news one. It will change as I upload more videos, but that will be the most recent one, other than this video that has come out so far. So I hope you guys did enjoy. I hope you guys have a good rest of your day. Feel free to subscribe down below. That will keep you up to date with all of the information that I produce on this channel. And yeah, I hope you have a good rest of your day. Goodbye.